speaker is Diane Breedlow. Is it Breedlow or Breedlow?
Love.
Breedlow, okay.
Can you hear me without the mic? That'd be not, no. All right. My name is Diane Breedlove, and I'm on the board of directors for School Fuel. And I wanted to take this opportunity to tell all of you how very much we have appreciated your ongoing support for School Fuel. We grew from 31 students in 2013 to almost 1,000 this year. We're providing for hungry students in kindergarten through 8th grade. And our plan next year is to expand to 9th grade so that eventually we'll be able to help all those students who need weekend food to succeed at school. But our growth and success hasn't been possible without your help. That is clearly obvious to all of us. We have a building. We've really appreciated that all these years. Today we were able to look at a temporary location where we'll be while you work on your permanent facility. Mendez is maybe not the perfect location, but it's certainly better than none. And we're excited to share the campus with the Mendez folks until something else happens. So thank you again very much for your ongoing support. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the work you're doing as well. Our second speaker is Rodrigo Amaya. He wants to address serious life outcomes.
School board, come here tonight to do just that. I want to know, when are y'all going to start holding individuals that are not performing satisfactorily to acceptable standards? Just read about that mishandling of the student with the knife thing. That is beyond insulting to me and every other member of this community. What are the consequences for such, disrespectful acts? I wanted to address, last time that I was here, I was told, one of the viewers, that I was talking about how one of the board members has a very, troublesome personal life. And I asked, what are they still doing on the board? And the letter, something was addressed to me and my issues on my personal life. Well, I was filed on for a little situation. It was declined by the DA. What that means is should have never been filed. So I don't have anything to hide. If anybody wants to question my criminal history, I'll gladly provide a full-blown one. I just got hired on a little campus up there, so my background there's nothing in there questionable. The other thing I wanted to address is there's been some serious concerns brought to my attention about the favoritism by the high school principal. Seems relatives of her that attend the school get to do whatever they want with no consequences. Again, for some reason, this norm of doing stuff and there's no consequences is starting to grow. I was reading this article the other day, something stuck out. It said that a problem unattended becomes a crisis. That's where we're at, not just in this building here, Commissioner's Court, City Hall. There was an article about how dysfunctional city council is. It's shameful that San Marcos, Hays County repeatedly comes up, makes the news in the most insulting and negative ways. Lawsuits all over the place. So we have to do better. When's it gonna start? Y'all have an obligation, not just to the position y'all took, but to the children, the leaders of tomorrow, to be the example. Not a poor one, a good one. And the majority of y'all have not been doing that. When is it gonna start? When is it gonna start? Y'all need to do a better job of overseeing directors and who y'all promote to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to, because I've got complaint after complaint that they're not. That's why I'm here about accountability. Where's the oversight? Where's it at? We wanna know, not just me. A lot of parents wanna know. I come here on their behalf. I just came from Austin. I rushed over here because I wanted to make sure that their concerns are addressed here in front of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready to begin the portion of agenda preparation for the April 19th regular school board meeting.
Madam President, members of the board, we will start with item 5, superintendent's report. We'll have an update of legal expenses that was requested. We'll probably switch that around and do student recognitions first. We have our fine arts students that just finished competing in band, music, choir, play, diamond line, and others. So we'll recognize them and then we'll have a legal expense update. Item 6, reports and information items. As required by Texas Education Code, item A, report on trustee continuing education hours. Item B, academic update. Mr. Sanders will be providing an academic update on some requested items from board to include a little update on SHMOOP, which is a program we've incorporated through the English classes.
Could I interrupt for just a minute? Could I request that we put the academic update first? I think it's the most important item on that part of the agenda, and I think it's what we should talk about first. Thank you.
Item C, operations update. Mr. Sandoval will bring his monthly operations update. Item D, quarterly investment report. Item E, quarterly financial report. Item 7A, approval of minutes for special call board meeting on February 28, 2022, regular scheduled board meeting on March 7, 2022, and special call board meeting on April 4th, 2022. Item 8A, consider approval of amendment to interlocal participation agreement, IPA, between San Marcos CISD and TASB Risk Management Fund. We'll have item 8B, discussion.
Sorry, could you explain what that is?
The Risk Management Fund.
Oh, to the risk management fund. I got it. Okay, sorry.
Can you explain what that is?
It's the renewal for the insurance.
Okay. Thank you.
Item 8B, discussion regarding costs incurred by SMCISD associated with donation of properties of Centro. We'll have that in the board. I don't know that will be, it was requested by a trustee. We'll just probably have it in the board book itself, all the requested costs. Item 8C, consideration and possible action to determine construction delivery method providing the best value for the 2017 supplemental bond projects, high school retention pond, 2017 bond project for incomplete and non-conforming work at Miller Middle School, and authorize the superintendent to take all action for procurement pursuant to the law and board policy. Item 8D, consideration and possible action to adopt the prevailing wage rates in connection with construction projects authorized by the board during the district's current fiscal year. Item 8E, discussion and possible action regarding proposed MOU with Hays County Public Health Department. Item 8F, discussion and possible action regarding SMCISD affordable housing for families, teachers, and staff. Item 8G, consider approval of innovative course. Or is that just for the course deck for several?
It's a special education course.
It's what?
It's a course for special education.
At the high school, junior high, what level?
Yes, it'll be for high school.
So it'd be adding it to the course catalog?
Yes.
Item 8H, consider approval of budget amendments. Actually, that will be I. H will become discussion and possible action regarding middle school math curriculum. I will become the consider approval of budget amendments. Do we have any budget amendments right now? Nine A, closed session as authorized by section 551.071 and 551.074 of the Texas Education Code. A, 9A, discussion, it should be discuss administrator contract renewals and extensions. Discuss teacher and other professional personnel contract renewals. 9C, discussion regarding superintendent evaluation. 10, open session. The board will reconvene from closed session to take action on item discussed in closed session. 10A, consideration and possible approval of administrator contract renewals and extensions. 10B, consideration and possible approval of teacher and other professional personnel contract renewals. 10C, consider action regarding superintendent's evaluation.
President Cantu,
Yes.
could we talk about the process that we're going to use for conducting the superintendent's evaluation this year? Because we've done different things in different ways in the past, and we're a little bit out of sync right now because we're trying to incorporate information from Trustee Hansen. So I just want to talk about what that process is going to look like so that we're all in agreement and we all understand, and we understand what we need to have done prior to the meeting and what the various steps and phases will be.
Dr. Cardona is supposed to send us something to fill out and submit so that we have ready, right?
Have I sent it to y'all already?
I haven't.
I don't have anything.
So I'll send you the ratings. Remember that spreadsheet
Yeah.
from 19, because everything was frozen. So you'll get a document with domain performance ratings that it'll say 1920. It hasn't changed because the data hasn't changed that we're using. And then you'll get a blank superintendent evaluation form, and you rate E, N, or needs improvement, right? There's 3 ratings. And so the board members will write their comments under each section. There's like 9 domains, and the domains are listed under personnel, student management, communication, community relations. And then you take those, board president. Last year, Ms. Hansen helped us, and she literally types in all y'all's comments verbatim into the document, and then that becomes the evaluation that you use.
And so the document that we're going to receive, does that include your self-evaluation?
I don't self-evaluate.
So it's just the criteria, though, that we determined previously that we were going to evaluate you on?
Correct.
Okay.
There are some metrics that are state required, goals that are already built in for reading, like incremental growth, and you'll have those documents. They'll be together.
So should people send their completed copy to whom ahead of time?
You can send them to me, and if we get them out by,
I can get you the stuff by tomorrow morning
Okay.
so that you'll have it.
I would prefer to have us be able to bring
Hand-
our comments to the meeting and then
Oh, yeah.
email them after the discussion. And so I just want to make sure that then we'll be in closed session having the discussion just among the trustees. And then are we envisioning that this is the formal evaluation, that this is what we will only conduct this one evaluation, or will we be conducting a subsequent evaluation in June or July?
the only thing we would be able to add in the summer would be our academic scores, right? But we could have a follow-up evaluation in the summer, June,
Right,
July
because
timeframe.
I think that's how we did it last year, that we had a meeting prior to May where we incorporated feedback from trustee McLaughlin as he was leaving the board in May, and then we had the final, that was a sort of preliminary discussion, and then we had the final review in June.
In the summer.
And I'm open to doing whatever there's consensus around, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and very clear about what
Right.
we're doing.
So are y'all good keeping all of your comments with you, bringing them to the meeting, discussing them in executive session, and then we'll turn them in then?
Would you prefer a hard copy, each of y'all to have a folder with hard copy that you can come pick up and then you have it?
If we're talking about this, I guess individually, and I'll be the first to raise my hand and say I haven't been timely about submitting my comments regarding Dr. Cardona's performance prior to that evaluation process. Ideally, in a perfect world, since we are now requiring staff to provide the entirety of the board book the week prior to the agenda, I'm curious if we're willing to hold ourselves to that same standard and to provide our comments regarding Dr. Carona's performance to that same Monday. I understand that it's because it's confidential, it wouldn't be included in the board book, but that would obviously and could obviously be provided to us as a separate confidential attachment to that email in which Ms. Logue provides us the complete board book. So I guess that's the first thing. Because I would appreciate a more deliberative process, understanding where my colleagues are coming from when it comes to the current status of the organization and job performance and so on and so forth. And I think providing those comments early and allowing us to better understand where each of us is coming from is a worthwhile part of this exercise. So as we talk about this, I'm curious to see what others think. You know, if I see the comments of 6 of my colleagues written down the night of, it's hard for me to process that, right? Like, we're back there an hour, 2 hours tops, maybe.
So can I just understand that you're proposing that everyone provide their written comments to each other a week before the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to understand.
Yeah.
And I'm fully in support of that.
So I would like to say, though, that I think, this year we are returning to STAR test. We will be having data coming in, whereas we haven't had it for the last 2 years, as we just said. So, it seems to me like there's a strong case for having a sort of formative evaluation with the board members next week to talk about where we think things are at this point, and having President Cantu come back to Dr. Cardona and talk about, this is sort of where the general space and what we're thinking about, but we want to wait and do the final review based on the numbers, because that's really the criteria that we agreed on. So we would be somewhat preemptive if we did the final review without having seen that data. That's my.
Are those two things mutually exclusive? If we provide our comments to each other a week before the meeting, can we still do the final, perform the final review in June with the new trustee?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think we can have one. I'm
Sounds
just saying that the April wouldn't be the final review. That would not be the official review that determined
Sounds good.
salary increases, contracts, et cetera, that we would have a general discussion and then we would make the final determination and provide the final review after we have the data for the school year.
All that will be added in the summer will be the academic accomplishments of the district.
But that's,
Yeah.
that's
pretty
the
significant.
criteria we agreed on. So it's hard to,
Yeah.
I have
The same-
concerns about us sharing our evaluation with each other ahead of time. I'm concerned about,
Do you have a problem sending them to me and
No.
let me have it?
but
We've done that in the
but not to
past.
share with everybody. I think we should discuss them, because just to see them cold, I think we can make different, make different decisions about the comments.
So could we agree then to send them to me, and I'll combine it all so that it'll be presentable to the superintendent? But each of you will have your copy of what you've written.
Well, and I think to find consensus
You were
on this
you were
issue.
addressing timeline.
Well, yes, but also, again, we all kind of say stuff back there anecdotally, a lot of word salad in the back room when we do this process. Setting an expectation that we will all share our thoughts. I'm comfortable sending my comments to President Cantu, and if this addresses maybe a lingering concern of some of my colleagues, then our names be redacted from them. So we see them as just general comments from board members.
Right.
And then in executive session, I'm fine saying, these are my comments, these are my grows and glows of
Up to
Dr. Cardona, whatever. So if that's an issue or whatever, again, I think the expectation is that that evaluation instrument stays confidential, and it's my understanding, if Dr. Cardona will correct me if I'm mistaken, but if we were to violate that confidentiality of that process, there are like TEA ramifications, right? So if I said I'm gonna show the world Ann Halsey's comments of Dr. Cardona, there's a remedy that you could seek out,
Yes,
correct? Okay.
There is. There's safeguards.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from Ms. Villapando and Ms. Mejia.
Well,
Oh, go.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, go ahead.
I have the same concern as Kathy about us sharing everything. But if it's gonna be done the way proposing. And we just cannot have a previous conversation about the previous to the actual evaluation with all of us taking part. I just can't see that. But if you figure that out, that's okay.
Ms. Mejia?
I want to know what's been done in the past, because this is going to be like my second evaluation to do, but I was so brand new last year. And now we're discussing like, new methods of doing this. So what's been done previously?
Previously, it's been sent to me, and then I have the combined information from everyone, and then we go in executive session and
No,
we have
we've,
a conversation.
we've always just brought it to the
Yeah.
executive session. We've never sent anything to you before.
I have received
We've
them in
sent
the
it to you
past.
I mean, I think it's been requested that they be sent to you beforehand, but I know I've sent mine in after, but
Yeah.
I have received them ahead of time.
We're all over the place.
I don't
we've done a lot of
mind,
different things.
I mean, some people do send them ahead of time.
Yeah.
Well,
I
that-
don't mind, sharing my comments to you, Ms. Cantu, but I do have concerns about sharing, my comments with everyone. I don't want to influence anyone beforehand. I do feel that everyone is entitled to their own opinions, to their own thoughts. And that should be done individually, and then we come together and discuss.
So I think that there's a solution that meets both of those requirements. If we send all of our comments to you, Ms. Cantu, by Monday, and you share them with us on Friday, then we'll have some time to read over them, and then both of those sort of requests are being met.
But
If the request
if I
is
share
to-
them, I would share them without people's names.
Right. I mean, I think that way we wouldn't be influencing
I don't-
anyone
I
else's
don't mind
decision,
doing
and we'd
that.
also have the ability to be prepared for the discussion so that it isn't quite as long and rambling.
And I guess,
And Dr. Cardona, you're sending them today?
Yes, so I'm sending you a blank document, which is the 9 domains with, and I think it's Cardona 2022. Sending you the Cardona Superintendent Appraisal Spring 2021 data that references that's past data, and then House Bill 3 board goals, and those are the 5-year goals that you've seen that for reading and math, those are the 3 documents that you use.
Now, I have another question. And this is for basically Superintendent Cardona. Is there a reason why you don't self-evaluate yourself?
Well, I'd rate myself E's on everything, but that's,
See,
no,
I want to know.
I don't think
what
I'm
you think.
involved. I think by code, I don't think I don't have a say as to
Oh, okay.
what you as the elected officials are evaluate, because you are the bosses, so.
Mm-hmm.
I can anecdotally tell you behind closed doors, but I don't have a say in my rating,
Okay.
yeah.
and I guess.
Now, I can respond,
Uh-huh.
if there's comments, I do have the ability on the document to put my response, to every comment. And on my evaluation, I will put things in there that we've done to address certain things. So I do have the ability to share other items with y'all.
So are you prohibited from self-evaluating, or is it just that we don't do it?
We just,
Okay.
I don't know that, I don't know, maybe I've never heard of any superintendent self-evaluating themselves. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I've never heard of it being
Just
done.
asking to clarify. Thank you.
I'm just asking because, like when it comes to like my employer, I have to self-evaluate my performance. And I would be interested in knowing what
I
you
would
think
be
about your
happy
own
to.
performance.
I would be happy to, in the comments, to do a comment section under each area that you can share with all of them, which we've never done, but I'd be more than happy to do it. I just won't rate myself.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
do it. That's fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Redondo?
Thank you, President Cantu. And I guess that spoke to what I was hoping for, that I didn't effectively communicate with my colleagues. I apologize. Yes, I would appreciate understanding my colleagues' perspectives on Dr. Cardona's performance going into the evaluation process this upcoming Monday or 2 weeks from now. But if given enough time, and this is something that we haven't done I think, with fidelity, or at all, really, is we have these processes, we evaluate the superintendent, and the expectation historically has been is the acting president collates this information and has a conversation with Dr. Cardona, and then it's kind of like, okay, you know, Clem talked with Michael about it, you know, he knows the things that he's doing good, the things we want to see improve. But like, I would like that process to take place on Monday. Like, if he receives our comments, if, you know, he's aware of the grows and glows that we've identified as a collective body, if those comments could be available to us in executive session, you know, Miguel is really upset about X, Y, and Z. Here's, you know, Dr. Cardona's response to those concerns. I think that is essentially accomplishing what our sole responsibility is to do, and that's to evaluate the superintendent, right? And we can say we went through this deliberative process, and, you know, we heard the responses of the concerns from our colleagues, and so on and so forth. And to Trustee Mejia's question, at least from my opinion, it's kind of changed every year that we've done superintendent evaluations. During the former superintendency, it was done a certain way. And then when Dr. Catalona got here, we kind of had this, you know, inserting test scores, levels of student achievement, evaluating it, and, you know, 2 or 3 years into the process, the pandemic hits, right, and we no longer have the scores to evaluate and the rankings and so on and so forth. So I think this is a unique opportunity with a couple of new board members to have a discussion of steering this evaluation process in a direction that we all think that's more beneficial and robust and effective. So I would be interested in entertaining, if Dr. Cardona is willing, you know, if I don't know how we incorporate a self-evaluation process now or in the future, but having that conversation moving forward, because again, I don't think Dr. Salmi or Trustee Mejia have had a lot of input regarding the evaluation process, and again, I think it's just kind of organically changed from year to year, and I think we have an opportunity to have that input.
Ms. Halsey?
Yeah, so I'm listening to all the various perspectives, and I think that I think we did a version of this several years ago where we met with Dr. Cardona and we went through the criteria, and he said to us it wasn't really exactly a self-evaluation, but there were elements of self-evaluation in it, and he explained to us, here's this criteria, and this is how I believe that I've scored, these are the scores that have come back, and this is where I think that I've done these things to implement the objectives that were determined, et cetera, the goals. And we then discussed it with you, and, you know, I said, what do you think about this, or where is this, or I have a concern about that, and you had the opportunity to address it, and then you know, we provided our comments after that, and I think then you left and we had met just as the board.
Correct.
And I think that's when we did it in the two-part, when we had one 6 months and then we did the other one 6 months later. We're obviously on a little bit of a different timeline now, but we could do that this month and have that sort of formative evaluation, say this is the process we've been following, here's the criteria, and so everybody understands it, and you have the opportunity to explain it and weigh in, and then we have the opportunity to ask questions of you, and then we could excuse Dr. Cardona and the board meet, and then we would have the follow-up review that would be, you know, the determining review with the data after we receive that information at the end of the school year. That seems like it would maybe accommodate all of the variety of concerns that are being brought up.
Again, the reason we're doing it early is to give an opportunity to Ms. Hanson so that she can participate in the evaluation, having been here with him 6 years and.
Well, and I
wanting to
think
be
it'd be
part of
hard for somebody coming in May and
Well,
automatically having to evaluate
The
somebody.
new person would
just
not
met.
have too much to base their evaluation on.
Right.
So we did the same thing with Mr. McLaughlin. We accommodated him so that he would have some input.
Right. And then at least for this round, we would be able to turn in our comments afterwards so that because I think, you know, sometimes, certainly I have thoughts beforehand, but I do think having the conversation and listening to you changes maybe some ways I've been thinking about things. And so then we could put that in. So then you did have written feedback following the meeting with the understanding that we would have a follow-up review in June, that would be, maybe that, at that meeting, we would turn in our comments earlier, and it'd be the more formal one. Does that?
I think that's great, but I'm all for us getting our comments in by Monday. I like things done ahead of time.
If you are receiving it tonight, I would love to have it in by Monday, and then I can start compiling it. And
Sounds good.
again, y'all want the compilation without names.
Right, but I do want to get Mr. Cardona's information, and I don't think it's fair to ask him to have that to us by tomorrow. And so I want to formulate my comments in response to what he's providing us. So I think it's
Agreed.
going to be hard, just because we're just deciding this tonight, it's going to be hard to stick to that
So, well,
Monday.
I agree.
just to talk this out, so what, and I don't want to speak for Dr. Salmi, but we just were sent a document that asks for our feedback of Dr. Cardona's performance. So that, in and of itself, completing that and sending it to President Cantu by Friday so that the entire board can have it over the weekend prior to the meeting, without all the other gobbledygook we just talked about, where are we on that?
I can do that. It will not be final. It'll be
Yeah,
a
well,
loose draft, and
yeah.
it will plan to revise extensively after the meeting.
Well,
Like,
and
it might
I-
not even include comments. It might just include check marks. That's where I'm at. So,
Okay.
but
What is the purpose of providing everybody our comments ahead of time, instead of waiting and
I
discussing?
mean, I think it's a true
Discussing them when we're back there discussing his evaluation.
because we rarely have everyone's comments. We normally go around the room and we all say kind of some anecdotal, good things, bad
Well,
things, indifferent things.
I say what I've
Nothing
written
is
down.
written.
I'm sorry?
And I just think, I don't know, if people are this concerned about evaluation process, I would assume that they would want to provide their comments in writing, even if they are organic and going to change. I don't think anyone said that they're going to be static. But, I mean, I don't know, it was a conversation we had. If we just want to go back into executive session and do what we've always done, I will give my grows and glows and we can move on. I'm
I'd
sorry
be
that
fine
this
doing it
took
that way in June.
30 minutes, but.
I think by June, we'll have enough information. We'll have had this conversation. We'll have had a group discussion to provide my comments in advance in that way. And I'm fine with that. Right now, it feels a little rushed for me, but
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I
I
can-
guess
I
I
can go with-
apologize for
No, I
going off on this
understand the-
tangent, because we literally just spent 30 minutes to essentially decide that we're going to do it the exact same way we've always done it, and it's to go in executive session with nobody's comments written beforehand, maybe a handful. So anyway,
Well, I'm not
Yes, Dr.
saying don't
Cardona,
have it
we
written
will
down.
fill
we
out
just don't
our
have-
Sorry, it's
document
hard to
in
hear
a
two people
timely
talking
way,
at one time.
and we'll see what happens.
What was your final?
I guess we're doing it the same way we've always done it, so thank y'all for
Miss-
paying attention
Miss
for the last 30
Hanson?
I
minutes.
would request.
Ms.
actually-
Hanson was
oh, sorry.
speaking at the same time he was, and I could not hear both of them.
I'm saying that we should bring our comments written down, so there's nothing just off the cuff, that we know what we want to say. But I don't think we have to share it ahead of time. We can share it back there in closed session.
Ms. Mejia?
I was gonna say, my employer does it every so often, like kind of like a quarterly and schedule. And I know some of, the school districts also do quarterly evaluations. Is that something that y'all would be open to?
Well, I
That
don't
way
know,
we won't
because
have
some
to do
people don't want to
this, like,
provide
at the
their
very last.
comments in advance, so what's
am
the
not for
point of meeting quarterly if we're just always going to do it the day of, so.
We used to do a formative and a summative of the superintendent. After 6 months, we did a formative. Then at the end of the year, we did a summative, just like we do teachers and other staff members.
So what happened with that process? Why was it eliminated?
Board members, I guess, didn't want to do it. I don't know. It just kind of faded away. But I think that gives the superintendent, instead of waiting a whole year and saying, I didn't like how you did this, you can provide feedback so he can either say, well, I did it because of this, or make a correction, and just like you said, working for the state, we have quarterly reviews.
Yeah.
So that my boss can tell me, you're doing really well, keep doing this, I want to see more of this. So I can make a correction instead of at the end of the year, oops, it's too late now, sorry.
And also so that we can create goals together,
Right.
for the superintendent, and we can work towards leading him in that direction and accomplishing them.
Exactly.
I just do
But
want to,
it's throughout the whole entire year, and it's not done all at the very last minute, like how it is right now. Is that something that y'all would be open to?
Absolutely.
I don't,
Yep.
Ms. Sami, Dr. Sami?
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. I have a goal for the meeting. I know I wasn't the person who proposed this, but I do have a goal of having our discussion be well thought out and streamlined. And I think a good way to accomplish that is to require us as individuals to write down our comments before that meeting and not make that our final evaluation, but to have put the thought and effort into it before the meeting. And whether or not you share it with each other, with Ms. Cantu before the meeting, I think should be up to us. And I think that that would accomplish the goal of streamlining the meeting and making it a little more well thought out.
I see us talking about two things. When we're doing an annual evaluation, whether it's in April or in June, whatever the evaluation is, would be to help our superintendent be a better superintendent. All of us have the option to set an appointment with our superintendent anytime there's something bothering you as a board member that you don't like something that happened. We all have that option to meet with him on a monthly basis, bi-monthly, whenever you have something that comes up, we all have that opportunity given to us to meet with him and let him know what's not happening that we would like to see happening, or corrections that you would like to see. The formal evaluation gives us a chance to write that down if it doesn't get corrected. Let's say, for example, in December, you said something that you didn't like, and then it continues, then at the evaluation time, that's when you write it down. I mean, that's the way I see the evaluation process for us as board members, because none of us think alike, and we all have certain things within the school district, academics, athletics, whatever is your concern, we always have that option to meet with our superintendent and talk to him. This end of the year is a requirement that we have to perform, and that he has to keep on record, and I believe he has to post it.
No, I don't have to post it.
I thought you had been
It has,
posting.
it does, some of it gets put in the financial reporting, the audit
Right.
that we do,
But not the comments.
not the
No.
comments and stuff.
No, no, I'm not talking about the comments, but your ratings,
No, it doesn't. have to.
nothing, okay.
I made well, I one time said I would post it, and then the lawyer said, you ain't gonna post it. So, Juan Cruz said, no, you're not gonna post it. So I made that comment, so then he chastised me and said no.
Yes.
Okay, so then have we agreed that we're holding on to our comments? What is the agreement? What is the consensus of the board? Everyone hold on to theirs? You're not sending them to me? I don't have to worry about typing them up and distributing without names? Everybody's gonna hold
The
on to
only
their
one
own?
that's sending anything to y'all is me. I'm gonna send you comments on everything, so that you have something.
And we should bring written comments.
Yes,
To the,
To the
Correct.
meeting,
to the board meeting.
an executive session.
I'll send you
Right.
something.
So then I'm not expecting anything from anybody. Am I right? Okay, I'm good with that.
I do have a question in regards to the day that we bring our comments. Last year, we were supposed to print them out, right? And I think we were supposed to have multiple copies or so. Can you please provide us like instructions on that? That way I can bring everything that I'm supposed to.
I would think you would
The
want
three
one
things
copy.
that I emailed you, there's one template for, there's a blank Word document, so you could just print that out and bring that if you'd like. But it should be for you to fill in. Just-
But do we bring, how many copies? That's what she was.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
bring one. I thought we
One?
just needed one because we'll
Well,
submit those.
I brought two at least, so I could keep one myself and give one.
Oh, of course. If you wanna keep one for yourselves, then you would make two. But if you bring one paper copy, then we're good.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions? Are we ready to have a presentation from Stan?
Item-
Oh, I did have one
Yeah,
more
I have
item.
Wait, oh,
things too.
okay.
So on the quarterly financial report, I would appreciate it if we could include the value of 3 months and 6 months expenses in some way so that we are aware of that number when we're considering the fund balance?
Could you tell me which item?
Thank you.
Is it under items for action?
Item 6E.
6E, thank you. Yeah, just include that on there. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Arredondo?
Thank you, President Cantu. I just, clarifying question and then maybe some dialogue and conversation. So I'm looking at the board book that was sent out in March, in which some of the trustee requested items had our name next to them. At our April agenda, which all of us are looking at right here, that process isn't in place. So I'm curious, what is the threshold of an agenda item being annotated with a requesting trustee versus not having our name next to it? How does that process work? This is for President Cantu.
Well, I annotated them and then she chastised me and said, stop annotating them. So I stopped annotating them.
I don't think that it's necessary to put whose item it is.
I'm fine with it, but I just want some consistency. So like tonight at the next Team of 8 training, like I just want it in black and white moving forward, how that happens. Because historically, 98% of the time, my agenda items have my name next to them. But other people on this board squeak by with agenda items that they've requested, reports on legal expenses, etc., in which their name is not annotated next to it. And individually, I find it very frustrating. So just moving forward, I hope there's some consistency with that process.
I've asked Dr. Cardona not to do that ever again. While I'm president, I think that's the way I feel about it. I don't think it's necessary to point out whose item it is.
If it's something, I'm comfortable with my 2 agenda items, the one about the MOU with Hays County Public Health, and then the one discussing ISD affordable housing. I'm fine with my name being next to them. I'm not shy about the agenda items I request. We do it here in public forum. It's on the tape. I think we should own the items that we agendize. Honestly, I would prefer it. If we request an item, I think our name should go by it. I think there's a level of accountability there, and it limits the games that some people might play with agenda items and their agenda, no pun intended, of why that agenda item is on there. So during our next Team of 8 training, I would really like to have that conversation of setting it in our board operating procedures. Is one way or the other, if we have something on the agenda, does our name go by it or not? And what the consensus of the 7 board members is.
And my thinking is, it's okay that you submit an item, but it takes 4 votes to get anything done, so that you can't blame or take the credit as if one person did it by themselves, because you may provide the idea, but it takes 4 votes to get anything done.
But I mean, I guess for instance,
Just the way I see
under
it.
this operation, if I wanted to censure you because me and you are having some issues,
Right.
it would go on the agenda under what you are explaining, is that it would just be an agenda item to possibly censure trustee Cantu. If that was just me putting it on in a process with no name attached to it, the perception could be that it's the organization, it's the entire board, and it is not just trustee Arredondo exercising some frustrations against you. So I think it provides some accountability too, that no one on this board put something on there unless it looks like the entire organization or the board is behind it. That's just my personal opinion, and as someone who can go back a month to show you agenda items that have annotated names by it, again, just as a follow-up.
That was his doing.
I just would like some consistency in the future and a conversation during our next Team of 8 training of what is the preferred process in which that happens.
It would make a good conversation. Anyone else? Are we now ready for a presentation from Stantec? Mr. Sandoval?
Hi, good evening. Good to see you all, Madam President, Dr. Cardona, and Board of Trustees. It's been a month, I'm back again. But my takeaway from last time was two things. Come back with a floor plan that represents the budget from October. And the second takeaway was, I heard, what's the price for the build-out, for the future renovation space. So I have those two answers embedded in this presentation, as well as a couple of other considerations for your time tonight. And I'm really hopeful that we can go away tonight with which option we're going to pursue so that we can get this project off the ground. Okay? Okay. So it always helps to put context relative to the presentation. So we're talking about the ACC building, its location, all of that intellectual property that's been established since June of last year, all the way up till today. Is something just to remind ourselves about. The location, the orientation, the thoughts behind the parking lot, and how to get there safely. That, of course, can't be said without including the fact that we're reusing an asset that the district owns, and we're going to give it new life. We're going to reposition it so it's a solution for your administration needs. And this slide is something that you have seen before, but I wanted to further illustrate the benefits of repurposing an asset relative to its cost right off the bat. The value that it provokes, the value that it has, versus brand new construction, and of course, the benefits of not having to wait for some of these materials. The next few slides are floor plans. And these floor plans represent getting us back into budget, but also looking at ways for options so that you have some ways to compare against. So I think we told you last time the easiest and quickest way to get a project back into alignment is literally taking off program, i.e. square footage. And so that's what this floor plan further illustrates. You may quickly recognize the fact that we have pushed and pulled the outside wall here. Let's see if I can toggle over there. So right in this, where my handprint is, this space has gotten significantly bigger. It used to be occupied by program space. What we really wanted to satisfy in doing this exercise was not changing the demarc line between this high bay space and this low bay space, which is all the administrative program. We also did not want to change the demarc line between this public space, which is the front-facing space that the public would engage with, to that of the private side or the administration side. So please be thinking as you look at this illustration that by no means it's a smaller project, it doesn't have as much clout. It's a smaller project, it's not going to function. Don't have that be your takeaway. But we did look at the spaces that had the most square footage, which were right up here in the public. It was the vestibule, the lobby space, this break room, the large conference room. We kept the training, of course, as it is, because that has to function as a training room. And of course, we shed the boardroom. This is what we refer to as option 1. Any questions so far? Option 1A is the same as option 1, exclusive to the fact that this now converts from workstations into private offices. The same footprint is the same. And the other benefit that this 1A shows is the acknowledgement of school fuel. So if school fuel needed a home, we could still allocate them right here. And the reason we put it on this side of the high bay space is it already has an existing garage door here, and it also has plumbing, so we would repurpose these 2 single holers into ADA compliant single holers, and also create a demarc line so we can condition only this space because it's programmed, and the balance of this space is future development. We don't know what it is, we're still condition it. It'll be quote-unquote warm shell space, but since we don't know the program of it, we're not going to distribute the HVAC as deeply as we would over here for school fuel. Any questions on that one?
What did you say that was going to be workspaces?
Yes, so let me toggle up to, I don't know if you quickly saw that when I went between 1 and 1A. But 1 is representing workstations for, this happens to be a specific department, but we thought of putting workstations instead of built walls. So the next piece of trimming outside of square footage is fewer walls. And that's what the difference is between 1 and 1A.
Thank you.
Mr. Redondo?
Thank you, President Cantu. I'm sure I'm skipping ahead here, and I'm sorry, but so it goes. Option 1, 1A, what are the price differentials for those?
What are the what?
For like the difference in price? So 1A, 1 is what, 1A is what?
Sure, I can jump to that, or I have one other floor plan to show.
Can you just tell us, like,
Sure.
1 is?
So I'm gonna jump over here to the cost estimates. This is, on the left-hand side, it's going from, it's vertical, but there's words there that say option 1. So this is option 1, which would showcase the workstations versus private offices, as well as just the future renovation space. So can you see the bottom, which is, this is the budget version. This is getting you the project on budget, which, as you recall, in October was 7 million. So this completes the request from last time with come back with a floor plan that meets the budget. That's what option 1 is. Option 1A is this slide here. This goes up by almost $474,000. This includes school fuel though, right, which is this line item here, $290,000 value, as well as having offices versus workstations. So inherently, this number for the build-out, the program space, is a little bit higher in here because of that.
So what was I can't see it from here. What was
7.4, and if I round, 7.5, if I round it.
And then what was the first one?
The first one is just hovering over 7.
7.
This is a total project cost. So this includes both hard construction numbers as well as soft costs, which is fee, furniture, asbestos, because it's an existing building with some challenges, as well as permits and those things.
And does it include the cost to demolish the GMR building
It
too?
does, it does. That's the top line item right here, 43,000. It also includes monthly escalation. There's 1 month in here included at 70,000, and it also includes 20% contingency.
Can we go back and let you continue with your presentation the way you were
Yes.
doing it? Thank you.
So again, here's option 1, 1A, and toggling up to 2, this is the all-in option. This includes, this is basically 1A with a boardroom. So you'll see that this training room got a little bit deeper, and we also included the closed session conference room. I want you to also further appreciate that we kept this footprint down here. This is the largest bay of the entire building, so we avoid columns. That did not move on purpose by design, so that we can still function as a training room or a boardroom should we need that piece. You know, everything else stays the same. We want the fewer things we manipulate, the easier it is for you to make a choice and for this to be built. And give you options for future proofing, so to speak, right? So if you end up picking one, but you really like 2, how can we do it later down the road? So that's what this is kind of working around. Any questions to that one?
Did you bring any copies with you with this?
But I can give it to you electronically, no problem.
So I have a question from the first option to the second option. What's the difference in the workstations?
Oh, cost-wise?
Well, no, not the cost-wise, but as far as like, you know, workspace, sorry.
Sure. So workstations right here are about an 8 by 8. So it's 8 feet by 8 feet. It's about 64 square feet. This would include like a panel to give you some separation. We can determine the height of that panel, whether it's seated privacy or standing privacy. It would have a primary desk and a return monitor arm for your computer, and it would also have filing, appropriate filing.
So it's open.
It's an open concept, yeah. This one is more or less like 140 square foot office. This would provide you with a primary desk, 2 guest chairs, and obviously a door and 4 walls around you. And if you recall at the very beginning in October, we met with users, we asked what was the goals, what don't you have, what do you want? And a lot of it was collaboration. A lot of it was retention, recruitment. You know, we want to be seen. We want to interact with people. So, you know, you could argue that this one might do this a little bit more appropriately than the closed office version. But I think that is definitely personal preference and obviously budget. Both are satisfactory. It's just change management. Working with a district, working with, you know, you do this all the time with private users. They're used to working in a private offices and they have to convert to a workstation. Or I see it flipping the other way. They work in a workstation and they have to flip to an office. So both of them have features and benefits, but it's personal preference. It's a cultural thing.
I have 2 questions. One, could we get the price on the third option?
Option 2, the big one?
The third one.
The third one?
So it's
1A plus, yeah. Okay, the price on number 2, please.
Price for number 2.
Like, the price is right here.
The price is right.
Walk on down.
It's about, well, this was 1. Did you want 1?
No, I want
2.
this
Oh,
number 2.
option 2.
The
So
Cadillac, how much is a
The
Cadillac?
Cadillac.
Yeah.
This should be very similar to what you saw in February. Remember, it was about 1.5 million over the budget? That's what this is.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm not trying to create smokes and mirrors with you.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to get the price on it. So then my other question is there a lactation space in the design?
Yes, ma'am.
And where is that?
It will be this space right here. By design, it's on the public side. So this way, any of your visitors could use this space, any of your even visiting teachers or students, that space needs to be visible when present. There's a lot of state and regulatory needs around a space like that.
And it's closed door and it does not have a toilet in it.
Correct. It's
Thank
on
you.
a privacy latch, but it needs to be available when needed.
Thanks.
Dr. Sami?
Yeah, I actually just wanted to ask Superintendent Cardona about exactly what she said about personal preference, and if you have any reason to think that it would be valuable for us to have an open floor plan workspace as part of this building.
I didn't hear that.
It depends on what department that is in purple. If it's HR, I think it's,
Right, and I think that you
You probably
probably
would
have a
want
lot of
closed
control over
space,
that.
yeah.
But in general, is that something that you think would be valuable for a school district?
I think it's something well, I can't speak for the departments but I am over there. I think there was a lot of concern about that, but I think being where we're at, they make it work right now in the even more cramped open spaces. So I think the people that would be in there might be used to it. But I don't know who's gonna go in that department. Y'all know?
It's TLA.
It's academics.
I would say the open works, well, I'm gonna speak for Mr. Sanders, he's probably gonna get mad, but I would say, he would probably say the open workspace would be okay because they should be on campuses.
So there's not value added,
Right.
and it sounds like perhaps it is something that you do not want, is what it sounds like to me. That's what I'm
Well,
trying to get
I know
at.
which one I want, but y'all are the spenders of the tax dollars, so
Ms. Cantu?
Mr.
we
Redondo?
go with what y'all want.
Thank you, President Cantu. And I guess this is for Stan Tech. You know, we're coming off of 2 years of where like everyone's home turned into their office, right? Where people are like, one, either preferring to stay home because they don't have to drive and all the things, and then we don't have to rent office space, and huge companies are no longer having to have buildings and all the things. I guess, can you explain to me, or in your professional opinion, or what you've seen, how in response to the last 2 years, one of the recommendations is everybody gets 4 walls, everybody gets a closing door, and that is kind of what we're doing. Like, why is that? If we've seen where, other companies are, these maker spaces at work, and you got beanbag chairs and a coffee machine, and we got a ping pong table over there, right? Like, so I'm just interested in knowing how we have, companies operating in that type of headquarters, and here where everybody gets 4 walls, everybody gets a door.
Right. So I have 2 answers to that. One is it's impacted my livelihood. I work on corporate office spaces day in and day out. Had to maintain new work, existing work during the pandemic. I can tell you that all of the space in Austin that may have been not wanted or quickly cut loose because nobody's working at the office, I can tell you right now, it's all been scooped up and repurposed, and another office has come into play. And if anything, right now, what we need to do is create a place where people want to work and be excited to work. And so that could be a makeup of the people itself, that creates invigoration, or it's the fact that it's a combination of things, a variety of things that makes them, lure them, want to come back. Because you're correct, they can easily work from home, I can do heads down, I can get my stuff done quicker. But is it as innovative? Is it as engaging? Do I know what's happening, if I don't see my colleagues every day because of the organic nature of conversations? So my best advice is to give you a design that provides the most flexibility as possible. And so the benefit of doing the workstations is that you can come back and put in private offices depending on how people elevate in their career. Or you can do a combination of like the open, kind of like what we have in HR, which is a mixture of offices and workstations.
So just as a follow-up to that, is it possible, as we have this conversation, I know I'm pretty interested in starting to move dirt like tomorrow, right? So we need to get moving. Is there a way to do a combination of the build-out for school fuel, which Mr. Sandoval have some questions about that, and then the open floor plan in the center of the complex? Like where the 4 wall, like the purple is the open space, but then we build out for school fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of hybrids could come out of this. You may like, yeah, exactly. That's probably the next variety, hybrid option, which is I really like this one, sans the boardroom, but workstations, right? So.
Well, I'm fine with boardroom. I think the cat's out of the bag on that one, so.
Ms. Hanson?
Yes, if we know for sure those workstations are gonna be done by the instructional coaches, then I think workstations work better. If you've got people making multiple phone calls, being a person who works for the state and we have workstations, it gets rather noisy and I can't always hear what my claimant's trying to tell me, or vice versa, because the person next to me might be calling and our phones are right next to each other, the wall, but it doesn't go all the way up. So I think it depends. I don't have a problem with the workstations if it's gonna be the instructional coaches, because they do need to share and talk to each other. They wouldn't necessarily be on the phones a lot. I do think it's important to go ahead and have the boardroom and the meeting room for the board to go into closed session, and of course, school fuel. So I would like to see that combination, workstations, boardroom, executive
School fuel.
session, and school fuel.
Ms. Halsey?
Could you go back to the cost estimate on version 2, please? I want to make sure that we understand how much the school fuel build out
Yep.
is contributing. Where
I
is
did a
that?
little math because
290.
290,000.
I actually thought you guys might like option 2 with workstations. So the cost for the workstations is Because that's basically the delta between 1 and 1A is $388,000.
Say,
So if-
that's the workstations, or say again?
$388,000.
Okay,
So if you were to take option 2, which is everything, and then add in, basically less the difference between 1 and 1A, that results in $7.9 million.
got it. Okay, so then could you go back to the floor plan for number 2? So if we went with the version of this that had the workspaces that were the office build out and the school field build out and the boardroom, it seems to me that there's an extra level in the entryway there, and then, is that true?
Oh, say it again, an extra what?
Foyer, the foyer,
No, the vestibules should be consistent.
they're consistent across?
Yeah. I can toggle and you watch that space. Watch that space. I think maybe the label moves slightly,
Yeah.
but the vestibule size and configuration stays the
So
same.
I'm trying to figure out what is making this the significant increase for the boardroom, which really looks to me like it's adding like.
Oh, so what you're seeing is the dais effectively. So this
Right, but we
yellow
talked about that last time and it was like $28,000.
That's
So I'm
right,
not sure
yep.
why it went to $500,000 now to put that in.
Oh, well, it's a combination, right? You've got the special sessions room, you've got the dais and the soft cost, which is, yeah, you're correct, and the IT. The IT goes up extensively when you kick over into a boardroom. So maybe that's the delta there that you're thinking.
The dais, all the fun stuff.
Because if I just go over to soft costs, there's a lot embedded in the soft cost number, so I can't extract it out, but I can
Okay.
tell you, because I put it in the Excel spreadsheet myself, and we went through the exercise with the IT team as well as an AV vendor, and I think we were targeting $300,000 for that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Mr. Arredondo?
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. Mr. Sandoval, I know the next item, I think we might table it, I don't know. We didn't deliberate before the board meeting or anything. We're gonna talk about supplemental bond and what that budget looks like. When we started this conversation, when the committee was in panel to talk about a central office, individually, I advocated that if we were going to spend, at the time, about $6.5 million on a non-voter approved facility, I wanted it to benefit the community and not just be a building that the administration used. That obviously didn't pan out, but here we are, kind of at the tail end of this process, and now we have a proposal where we do have an opportunity to put an organization in there that does a significant amount of good work in the community. Is there any flexibility with our bond funding, our remaining bond funds to use to build out that school fuel portion, since the language of the bond was what it was for like community benefit?
Yeah, that there actually is, and we could take all of the bond money, because what we're doing is, the way the bond was written back in 2017 is that it was a school building, it was identified as a school building, so we could actually use that money for this facility. I think there might be something to consider in terms of a perception in the community, using that money to build out a central office. I mean, that's something that y'all have to decide. But in answer to your question, yes, that bond money, or a portion of it, could be used.
As far as using the full amount on central office, like, yeah, I think that's gonna go over like a lead balloon. But individually, when it comes to the space of school fuel and possibly the remaining envelope of the building, and now, open up Pandora's box to have this conversation, since school fuel, the intent, or at least the proposal is to have that organization there, and because, as the speaker spoke about prior to this portion of the conversation, that it does help 1,000 of our school children throughout the year, individually, I would be interested in leveraging some of those bond dollars, at least to build out the school fuel portion. And I understand we're just kind of moving money around at this point in time, but individually, I would support, as we discuss how we're funding this project,
Sure.
that some of those bond proceeds go to the school fuel space.
Yeah, so let me talk about school fuel just for a second. So the comments made earlier, Richard Duval met Ms. Hanson and the chairwoman of school fuel at Mendez Middle School, or Mendez Elementary. They visited the back area. There's an area for them back there. It is going to cost, it is going to take some renovation, some paint, some ceiling tiles. We'll need to build a ramp so that they can get deliveries. And for me, that was, if y'all decided that y'all did not want school fuel in the new central office area, that would be their permanent home. We need to do that because we're gonna have construction going on, and we have to find a place for them for temporary. It might work. They might get to Mendez and say, "Man, this is working perfectly." No?
I'm sorry.
No? Okay.
It's gonna be a struggle, even with building the ramp for Labatt they're gonna have to get there within a certain time frame. Whereas at this current location, they can come anytime
Okay.
during the day because they're not interrupting. But since that's the bus circle, they can't be there too early or too
Right.
late.
Okay. Well,
So
that's
that-
good.
I mean, that's just one.
In the
part.
same vein in which this board overwhelmingly voted to support Central at a previous board meeting because of the net benefit that that nonprofit provides to the community, I think individually having the conversation of, funding and building out that space in the new central office for school fuel is in alignment with, I think, what this board has done recently, which is supporting nonprofits in this community that support the ISD. So again, when it comes to building out that portion of central office, I would prefer, that we do this once and we do it right and we do it well and we build out that space to, quite frankly, like school fuel's exact specifications, if that's their preference, but utilizing some of those bond proceeds, because I'll hit the streets and argue that using some of those bond dollars benefits every child in every school because it's school fuel being in that space, right?
Got it.
Individually, that's where I am. I know we're not there yet. If we're talking about like what proposal we would support, I'm fine with option 2. Quite frankly, I would like to see a more open space in which, we can put up partitions if necessary, if, a department goes in that space that needs confidential phone conversations. Again, these innovative workspaces put in telephone booths, right? And you do the thing. And it's also my understanding that a part of the architect's process was, and I don't have it in front of me, but where it was like proposed layout, like teaching and learning was gonna go here in the space, HR was gonna go here, finance there. So we kind of know it exists, right? Who's gonna be the purple?
Mm-hmm.
Who's the purple?
That's academics.
Okay, so they're not gonna, again, I know we pay the instructional coaches a lot, and I don't ever want to see them at central office. Like, they should be in a classroom tutoring a kid, not reading on grade level every day. So, again, 4 walls, a door, kind of boggles my mind for teaching and learning and assessment right now, but, yeah.
Ms. Hanson wanted to speak.
Dr. Salmi?
Ms. Hanson had her hand up for a long time.
Yes, I was just wondering, proposal 3, this is my question. With the workstations, and just to know how much the cost was to build out for school fuel, and the boardroom, what was gonna be the total cost?
Yeah, it's about 7.9.
So,
All I did there was took the derivative between 1 and 1A, because that was the derivative of private office versus workstations, and then removed that from the option 2.
and how much is the cost for just school fuel?
290,000.
So that would reduce it to, if we paid for that out of bond, to
Correct, remove that from the bot.
about 7.7?
7.9.
Oh.
Remove that figure from 7.9.
Yeah, so it's 7.6, 7.7.
Okay, that's what I thought.
The second
Thank you.
option, I thought it was 7.4.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
So I think that this was actually an agenda item that I put on this agenda, although I intended it for the next month, so I apologize for the short notice to you for being here, for the next meeting, sorry. What do we need to do right now to get this project moving forward again?
Yes.
Let me take the mic. I need you to pick one of those options.
Okay.
1, 2, or 1A, 2?
Or a
And
combination.
can we call the third option, that 7.9 million, can we just call that 2A?
Or 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Salmi that we need to move forward because we're
Yeah,
seeing
wasting
costs
money the
just
longer
keep
we wait.
going up.
Yeah.
Ms. Halsey?
Yeah, I absolutely am sensitive to the fact that we're, it gets more expensive the more we wait, but also I don't think that it's appropriate for us to make this determination tonight when it's not a regular school board meeting. We've decided previously that we are not going to vote on issues in agenda prep unless they're really critical and, really affecting student
Operations.
outcomes in an urgent way, and I just don't feel like that this qualifies to that level, and so I think in terms of precedent, we need to table it until the next meeting.
Okay, so I would move to table this motion to the next meeting.
I had a
Oh,
comment.
we still have two
Okay.
people want to comment. Ms. Mejia?
I want
Or Ms.
to
Yagwan?
see, okay, just like we did school fuel, can you tell us how much for the boardroom? Because you already had it as a training, and all you did is added the dais?
Mm-hmm.
And the executive session room.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
Okay.
session-
Correct.
And
Place
so
for
how
chicken.
much is that, and can that come out of bond money? That is a community thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have had this place full sometimes, and they don't fit.
Yeah, this is what it's all about, y'all. This exercise. Thank you for that.
Okay, Ms. Mejia, you were next?
We could, and in answer to your question, yes.
Yes, we
certainly
can.
could.
Well, and how much is the
We can
addition?
figure, we can
Oh,
figure
you
that
can
out.
figure
I
it
don't know
out
if we can
whenever
do it
you
right
have
now,
time.
but
Yeah.
because there's some soft costs with technology and.
Oh, that too.
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Hanson?
Did you finish?
Mejia,
I
did you
I
already
wanted to
speak?
say
I
something
finished.
now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just wondering if we wait another 2 weeks,
The technology.
is that gonna cause us more money?
It's okay.
Cost us more money?
Every day.
Yeah, and
I don't wanna be.
just for for a talking point, I updated the schedule. The red line represents where we are, because we're right at the beginning of April. I will acknowledge that your board meeting is in 2 more weeks, so, effectively would lose entire month of April, I have a feeling.
So
So-
the board approved back in October, I'm sorry, Judy, the board approved to move forward with the central office. I'm not confident with okay, you approved it for this dollar amount, now we're at here. I don't know how that has to work internally with the school board. I mean, I don't know if it requires another vote, because now it's 7.7, and it was, 7 million.
It requires a vote.
It
Okay.
requires
It's
a
over
vote. I checked
$50,000.
with legal counsel, and a change in the approved budget for the central office would have to go back to the board for a vote. Ms. Mejia, you've been trying to speak?
I know, finally. Okay, so my first comment or question is, since we're talking about, budget, pricing, last month you presented to us the cost of what it was in that month. Have you seen any increase in the materials and the labor since then?
Yes, more yes. It's still
figured.
very
I
volatile.
figured.
It's hard to capture,
Okay.
in fairness.
And have you calculated the percentage that it has increased from the last time that you presented to us to current date today?
I haven't gone into that granularity. I mean, the numbers that you're seeing are actually from, a mixture of since January, because that's when we've been working with our third-party cost estimator. So that's why we keep in here the contingency. That's why we keep in a monthly escalation. Did I add in $70,000 from last time to this time? No. I mean, I would have had to have calculated since last October. I have not folded that in. But we have contingency in there, which is high at 20%.
20%, okay. And then one more thing. Okay. So I've been thinking about basically our Lamar campus, because we have our Crossroads transition program there. And I really would like to state that if, it would be beneficial for them to get involved and build their skills with school fuel. And so I think we should really consider those options that involve school fuel at central office.
That's a great idea.
That's a good point.
Mr.
Well, they might
Redondo?
be able to come and fluff the sacks or do a lot of the prep type.
So,
Mr. Redondo has the floor.
just, I think as we telegraph this, and as I think we make a motion to table and postpone for 2 weeks. So if we go back in time, right, if we could do that. We could have voted on a central administration at Mendez Elementary that was designed by the last architects that we had at a similar cost, and it was more square footage. I think it was 25,000 square feet. So all of that to say, we've kicked this can down the road a number of times, and we came at the last board meeting, and there wasn't in the conversations leading up to the last time we voted on this, there wasn't a boardroom. Now there is a boardroom. I didn't think we needed to have one, all the things, right? So this thing that just keeps changing on me, and I don't like that, but it is what it is. I'm ready to vote tonight. If it's motion to postpone and table, I'm gonna be voting against it, just FYI. I am interested, before we take the final vote, if that ends up happening, having some type of Wolf Blitzer, y'all do it live calculation of how much it's gonna cost to do the public space, so the boardroom and the school fuel, so that if a vote does occur tonight, we know,
What that value is.
yeah,
Yeah.
the separation of the two. But anyway, that's where I am, and we'll see how it goes. It is what it is.
I agree with Ms. Halsey that we should wait and have this kind of a vote when we have a regular board meeting. And that's just my personal opinion.
So I would like to move that we table this item until the regular agenda meeting in 2 weeks from tonight, and then we can vote on it at that time.
I'll second. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Raise your hand. 2. I got 4, that was 4 against?
No.
3, 4, 5, okay.
I move that we go ahead and approve funding with, well, should we,
You have to give which option we're gonna go with.
okay, I'm trying to.
Go for it.
I'm just with looking at the bond paying for the dais and the conference room and school fuel, and we budgeting for the paying for the remainder. Does that make enough sense?
I don't understand. Do you don't want those in the budget? Is that what you're saying?
Well, but if we can use the leftover 2017 bond money for those two
You
public.
adding that into your motion to proceed with the plan, is what I'm asking.
The plan with the workstations
Uh-huh.
and
School fuel.
school fuel and the dais and the closed session conference room, but with the last two paid out of the 217 bond project, since they're public spaces, really. And then for the board,
So you want to include the bond projects as part of the funding with the motion to choose that? That's what I'm trying to clarify.
yes,
Okay.
for those two items.
So
Okay.
which option are you suggesting?
It's a new one.
2A.
I think the base would be option 2, which is on the screen, with the workstations from option 1.
Right.
And breaking out the pricing for the school fuel and the boardroom and the closed session conference room to accommodate 2017 bond money.
What she said. Exactly.
Second.
She understood me. So that's my motion.
Second.
I don't
But
support including the
I would like to
funding.
have a dollar amount to that motion.
Happy to get that. I will get that.
You want it now?
Or do you want it right now? Okay.
I mean,
Can I squirrel away over there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
I would like a dollar amount for the motion.
okay.
Yeah, and I would like not to vote on the financial part of it, when we don't know that dollar amount and when it's
There's,
just
there's
been
too
brought up,
many
so.
questions in it.
Yeah, I'd like to just decide on the floor plan we want and.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to decide on the floor plan that we want them to move forward with and
Yeah.
discuss the financing,
Could you do that?
whether
Are
or not
we-
we're going to omit the additional bond
Trustee
products.
Hanson, if you,
Way.
There are
I know
sugge-
they're calculating it, but for the purposes of solidifying the floor plan, I would be supportive of 2 possible motions. The first one, selecting the floor plan that you just stated in your motion, and then a subsequent motion that discusses the funding mechanism. Both motions which I would support, but I think Dr. Salmi wants to select floor plan first and then financing second.
Okay,
And then we'll
That's
take
correct.
care of this. and-
so, but they were gonna give us not to exceed a certain amount.
So your first motion dies for lack of a second.
No, I,
No, I
no,
have
I
a
second,
second.
I second, but I guess for the
Oh, okay.
purposes
So
of the
changing
conversation, so.
The
and-
motion to be
Speak.
the floor plan with the workstations,
Yes, I would
central
like to
off,
see that
the
as a
dais, the
single motion,
closed
yes.
session room, and school fuel. That's my first motion then.
Thank you.
Can you do this? Can you all approve option 1? And then in the supplemental bond project, we'll bring back the boardroom and and school fuel.
I don't want to talk about the supplemental bond projects on this part of it, or I want them separated, I want them to be separate motions, that's what I'm
It's
trying to
just
get
the
at.
funds,
But
though,
it's-
That's right.
it's
not the total list of projects.
I don't want to discuss the funding it with the school full, in the same project where in the same motion where we decide which floor plan. That's what I'm
Okay.
asking.
You're
So
saying is
my
go with
motion is-
option 1. You're saying go with option 1 and then bring
No.
in the
No.
supplemental?
What
No?
I'm saying is the workstations, the dais, the closed session room, and school fuel. That floor plan is my motion.
Which was option 2, correct?
We're not worried about monies.
Right,
Second,
okay.
Can you restate that motion, please? I want
I-
to be clear, because we've tossed so much around.
those things in it?
It does, except we would just remove the private offices and, in that band and
Right.
replace it with workstations.
Okay, so it is option 2, but with workstations. That's the
Second.
floor plan I'm moving.
Yes.
second.
And we did not have a dollar amount at this time.
That'll be the second motion.
The dollar
Actually, we
amount
do.
was 7.9.
We do have the dollar amount, because it's 7.9.
But we want to do that separate because we want to look at the bond project.
I guess as of
That's the
right now,
total,
yeah,
is
the
7.9.
option, the one that we just,
The one we're talking about, the total she's told us is
7.9.
7.9 million.
Correct.
Okay, so the first vote will be on voting on the option 2 floor plan with workstations.
Right.
That's your motion, and you second it. Any further questions or discussion from anyone?
And you included school fuel in that, right?
Yes.
Yes, for option 2.
Everything.
Option 2, but change out to workstations.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. I'm gonna vote for it, although I'm real concerned that we're leaving so much up in the air still.
Oh, no, I'm
6-1.
voting no.
6, opposed?
I'm opposed.
6-1.
When we met in October.
Okay, so that, we voted on the option 2
with work.
So the
Mind
second
you,
With
motion,
workstation.
with workstations.
second motion is to pay for it.
Yeah,
So
somebody's gotta pay for it.
to,
Who will?
to have the 2017 bond project pay for the dais, the closed meeting room, and school fuel, and we vote on the amount for the other, the main part. I don't know how to call it, what to say.
Program space.
Okay, thank you.
second.
Can you restate the motion, please?
I don't think so.
So she motioned that she wants the 2017 bond to pay for the boardroom, school fuel, and dais, and there was something else, right?
The closed session.
The closed session, okay.
Okay. I have a question. Do we know
Yes.
the total of what that would cost at this time?
Without those three spots.
290,
We're gonna subtract
Start subtracting out.
subtract the,
590.
If you don't want to, it can't come up with an exact amount, can we say not to
I can,
exceed?
I did put an ROM on it, so.
Do we know how much would be left for other school building
290.
projects?
School fuel. And then.
it's in there if it's broken out.
It just sounds like 300,000.
Well, school fuel would be 127 then, the board goes down to 125. So is it 16,400 square feet?
It's, the difference is 2,000 square feet between the,
Got it.
yeah,
Well, they're
At
it's
what?
discussing
at
it. Can I share-
125. So
Clem,
even if it's
while they're
100,
trying to figure out those things,
200.
I think it's a bad idea to make that decision without solid information financially, because we will not know how much
I'm having
money.
trouble hearing everything
I
you're
think it's, I'm just gonna share my opinion while they're discussing that I think making a financial decision like that without solid numbers at this time is ill-advised, because we don't know what other potential improvements could have been made to other schools, to school buildings. We're discarding those without
300,000.
full information.
So are you saying you're not in favor of the motion because we should be discussing the financial part of it yet?
That's what I'm saying.
I
And
don't
we
see
should
how
be
we can
discussing that
proceed without that.
with more information that is,
We lacked
More accurate.
information,
Mhm.
right?
yeah. So I think
Anyone else?
that we should be discussing that
Because
next,
we have a
at the next
motion
meeting.
and so we're
We
in
do.
the discussion phase.
This is discussion
yeah.
of it, yeah.
So I guess,
I think, go ahead.
well, just as a individual trustee reviewing the supplemental bond projects as proposed, looking at central office, I think we have more than enough funds to pay for the priority one supplemental projects as proposed by staff, and incorporating some of those funds into the central administration building. That wasn't how I saw tonight or this process going, but I appreciate the, dialogue and exchange that we've had with each other. And quite frankly, I think there are some supplemental bond projects that should and could be paid for out of fund balance. But we can have that conversation when that item comes about.
Ms.
That's where
Mejia?
I-
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Ms. Mejia?
I think he pretty much said it, so it's fine.
If we need to go with not to exceed a certain amount, that works better for y'all, because I know this is like,
Is there any reason that we need to decide this tonight?
I'm
Is there any value in us deciding this funding portion of this tonight?
If we approve the plan, but we haven't approved the funding, it's
For
really
me, the
just on-
scope doesn't
At least that's
change.
what I think.
I know the
right?
scope, so
We've-
I can
we've
start
already approved
designing.
the plan, so we
It's
approved the
really
plan.
where you want the buckets of money to fall for you.
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
sa-
I think we already approved the plan, which means it's happening out of the
So they
fund
can get-
balance. This
so
is
they can
something
get to
separate.
work on that.
I mean, I'm fine voting for the supplemental stuff tonight. I don't know where everybody else is.
So you
We're
You
not at the
need an
vote on a
amount of
financial
Yeah,
matter
still
without
on
knowing
the-
the
No,
number?
I just need the scope of work, which
but
you
I think our
provided.
public needs to know an amount we're talking about. I don't feel
I
comfortable
agree.
just saying, yeah, start building, but we haven't decided how much we're spending,
But we have decided that. We just approved the full project. All we're talking about is where exactly the money is coming from. And that doesn't need to be decided tonight.
I mean, if there was interest from the board to proceed with using supplemental bond funds to improve the public space of central office, I don't know if trustee Hansen, if not to exceed like 600,000 maybe? I mean, if school fuel, the square footage there in the central office, I don't know, right?
Well, I
Like-
just would like to know not to exceed so much amount for the building of central office.
Oh,
That's what I was trying to get at with.
not the public space.
Not, right.
Oh, okay.
Like,
The one we just
if you can tell us a ballpark figure, then we can say.
So option 2 was 8.2 million, and we determined that taking out what could be paid with bond takes it down to 7.5 million.
So not to exceed 7.5 million? You're comfortable with that? Or do we need to make it 7.6? I don't understand.
Well, that includes the contingency, right? Would that
Yeah,
include
because that's,
contingency in there?
that's blended in right here.
Kathy, I don't understand how we can change the vote. I think you're asking to change the vote we just made now.
No, we voted on a floor plan.
The
Not
floor
to
plan
exceed
had a cost
7.9 million.
associated with it.
Pardon?
The
Not to
floor
exceed
plan had,
7.9 million.
Okay,
that
so,
floor plan has a cost associated, which is 7.9
9
million.
million.
so we're saying not to exceed 7.9 million, but I don't think that was explicit in my motion.
Understood, understood.
That's
I just-
not. You
I
asked her how much it would cost to build that, and she responded to you 7.9 million. But you did put, because I wrote 7.9 million down.
Right.
She responded, but it was not included in your motion, because
Right.
that's not what she's
So
got
what are
written
y'all
down.
telling me you want to
The
do?
secretary doesn't have that written down as part of the motion.
So can we just do a second motion not to exceed, to continue with not to exceed 7.9 million?
It would
Okay.
take a second motion because the first motion did not have a dollar amount per our secretary.
Are you okay with that amendment, Mr. Arredondo?
So just as a clarification, I am, to answer your question. Did the first motion, or does this motion then address using supplemental bond funds for funding, or no? That's a totally different.
That was not part of the motion.
Okay.
Did you write down her second motion?
Which was that she wanted the 2017 bond to pay for.
No,
No.
the motion with the dollar amount. This one that we have right now, a motion with a second. Did you write that one down?
No, because I got lost.
Yeah, me too.
So the first motion,
The
as
first
the voters
motion-
of San Marcos collectively roll their eyes watching at us from home tonight. So the first motion was just for a floor plan. That I was under the assumption was 7.9 million, but because it wasn't explicitly stated, we're gonna have a second one to clean it up, correct? Okay.
Correct.
So the first one passed, so the second one is just locking in do not exceed price.
Right.
And if this passes, it is still a withdrawal from fund balance of 7.9 million, not to exceed that amount, correct?
Right.
Okay, I'm ready to vote for that.
Thank you.
Did you want to restate your motion using the dollar amount, please?
I move that we approve the building of central office not to exceed 7.9 million.
Second.
Any further questions or discussions or comments?
Option 2 with workstations.
I'm not gonna go into that part.
That
We already
was
voted on
motion
that part.
one. That was the first motion.
I'm just going to say again, I
That was
think it's
approved. It's so
really highly
confusing.
inappropriate that we are taking this vote now. I'm going to vote no again in protest because we have discussed on numerous occasions that we are not going to make decisions at agenda prep meetings. They're not mandatory. They don't go toward attendance. They're not supposed to be voting meetings, and we should not be determining an expenditure of the taxpayers' dollars in this extraordinary amount without full advertisement and the opportunity for people to come and weigh in public hearing on that issue. I think this is highly inappropriate.
Okay.
Call for the vote.
Any other comment? I'm gonna give everybody a minute to think before we vote. Because this is a lot of money. All in favor of the vote, raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed, raise your hand. 2.
So before we leave this item, just to add to the excitement, so I'm very interested in understanding how or when in this process we would talk about using supplemental bond funds, residual bond funds. I know we're about to get to that agenda item possibly.
That's the next item where we can,
To, so like, is that when we can talk about using those dollars for the
We-
public space and central office,
Thank
correct?
you.
Maybe? Okay,
Yes.
then, yeah, I'm ready for the
next,
next
Can we
next
take a quick
item,
break?
Wait a minute.
Sorry, I was
Dr.
ready.
Sami, you had put this on here?
Yeah, I put this item on the agenda, and it was intended for the agenda,
For
it was
the
intended to
April-
go on to the next meeting when I,
To
so I
the
missed.
regular board
The
meeting.
regular board meeting. When I sent it to you, it was intended for the regular board meeting, and I would move that we place it on the regular board meeting.
Okay.
And I'll try to be more clear about that in the future.
Okay, so this item could be tabled for the April meeting.
And I would like to suggest that we include discussion of those funds related to the building at that time.
For our regular board meeting.
Ms.
So that-
Cantu, I think if we're going to add something to the agenda prep, then I think we need to close this item out and reopen up the agenda preparation.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
If we're going to vote to, if we need to vote on tabling this, and if we vote to table it, then I think we need to reopen up the agenda preparation item number 3 to add additional items.
If we table this, it has to go on, it would be part of the table 3, number 3.
Right, I just think we'd have to recall that item up.
Right.
Do we need a motion?
Do we need a motion to table? I don't.
Well, so Dr. Salmi just motioned to table, so is there a second, or are you just taking it as is and tabling it?
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Sami has made the motion to table this for the regular board meeting. Ms. Halsey has seconded.
Where will it go if we table it?
Back to agenda
In
prep.
2 weeks.
What part of the agenda?
No.
It'll go to item I. It'll become item I.
No, we already had I think it'll be
It'll be
J.
J.
We have, I don't know.
Well, we have to open up the agenda preparation part of the meeting again in order to determine that. That's what I think.
We can go back to our agenda prep and add it to items for action, HIJ.
Just as a FYI, if we were to follow board policy to how it's written, adding the supplemental bond program, per the way that this happened, theoretically, would not be in alignment with board policy.
I think it would because the request was put in 2 weeks in advance. It was the superintendent's error in putting it onto this agenda.
I mean, yes, but like per board policy, I'm fine with it. I'm just saying.
It was submitted before
again,
today at
it's,
noon.
Yeah, but it got, anyway, I just think the rule is.
I can't add the agenda item that I would like to add, but that'll have to wait till May. But
Yeah. I just don't like the rule period, so I'm trying to get us to remove it, but yeah.
There's mumbling going on and I can't hear you.
Okay, anyway.
Sorry.
Can I, if I may ask a question, so as far as the supplemental bond list, can I update it and send it out to y'all tomorrow with what we discussed tonight with the school fuel boardroom to be considered and all the total items that y'all want to
Thank you.
Yes, you
vote
may.
on?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, so we have a motion to table. All in favor of tabling the discussion regarding the supplemental bond projects? Please raise your hand.
Discussion and possible action.
And possible action, the way it's written, right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 2. 5, 2.
Miguel?
Hanson and Arredondo. All right, I'll entertain a
I
motion.
move to adjourn.
So we need to open back up the agenda preparation if we're going to put that item on that.
Okay, let's go
'Cause
back.
we've closed that part of the, we've already determined the agenda.
Yes, we did. When we moved on to the discussion of the new central office, we closed that agenda and moved on. But we can reopen the item 3 and add the,
It has to be a motion, I think.
yeah, we can
I
add
move
it.
that we add this discussion of possible expenditures for the supplemental bond projects to the agenda via item 3 on today's agenda.
I second.
Motion to add the discussion and possible action regarding supplemental bond projects to the agenda preparation for April 19th. Questions or comments? All in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
Wait, did you count me?
Did you vote?
Yes.
Okay, so it's 7-0 to add it
me.
to our agenda preparation. Now we can entertain a,
A, I move.
regular meeting, April 19th, regular meeting. I have a motion for adjournment, a second.
I'll second.
Hanson makes the motion, Mejia seconds, all in favor? Raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Voting against, I want to say.